All right, let's start it from there.
All right.
What's up, Andrew? Are you ready to start our first fucking episode?
I'm willing to crack into it here. Our first episode is with somebody that we all grew up absolutely adoring because he was so kind and soft-spoken. You know, he lived for snowboarding and only snowboarding. He never talked once. He wasn't opinionated in any way, shape, or form
at all. Yeah.
And he had a really hard time getting sponsors because he was not very marketable. Willie, I hate the term legend because it's overused, and I believe there's really only about enough to count on two hands in the snowboarding industry that could actually use that word. And it also it puts people away. When you say legend, it says, oh, well, he used to be something. He isn't anymore. Well, this interview is with somebody who I would consider one of my, the 7 legends that exist in snowboarding to this day.
And the male snowboarder of the year, Kevinjones.
I want to thank Metallica because they're sitting right over there.
Rock, rock, rock! You're a poison rock! Rock! You didn't want a second chance. That's exactly where you are.
Damn it. We lost another one.
What the fuck, man?
I'm protecting myself.
I feel like I haven't seen your face in like 12 years or something.
Well, you're not going to see it for the next hour and a half either.
There's no
myself.
There's no data that says you can't get Rona through a microphone.
Are you
I trust the science, and science hasn't figured out that we can't get it through microphones yet.
Or through the
and especially that Canadian strain.
It's bad.
It's heavy up there.
Yeah, all you can smell is maple syrup.
What's up with that flamingo on your climbing wall? Is that like one of the grips?
That's how I get my 2-year-old to get up the wall. Put a little flamingo up there, and next thing you know, he gets up there.
I guess we should introduce our guest for those of you who don't know who's behind the mask and who was in that video, who's not maybe watching this, they're listening to it. It is a podcast after all. This is the one and only Kevinjones, aka KJ. What are some other also known as this?
The Cage.
It's
a popular one.
I think I stole this from you, Kevin.
You probably did.
I don't know how I ended up with this, but how much money did you make off of this? Do you remember?
I have no idea. That's the irony. In theory, you made a bunch of money, but like it looks good on paper, sort of a deal. But collecting that money is a whole different ballgame. Or saving it, or holding on to it.
Yes.
What were we looking at there?
It's like like the action figure. Well, it's like the snowboard. Let me try to get it this way. This way.
It's also ingenious because you can actually place keys on it. It's actually a keychain. So they combine two things at once. It's genius.
It says here that your hobbies include fly fishing, golf, and playing my bass.
I don't do any of those except for play my bass now.
Were you into golf at one point?
I don't think my hobby was golf.
Yeah, that's funny. That was surprising. I figured you'd be like anti-golf or something.
That was probably like wishful thinking on Steve Aspin's part that I would like go golfing all the time with him.
Well,
Which I did for a little bit. So maybe it was during that one time that I did golf with him.
It's pretty sick though, because you share the back of this card with Danny Way, Ryan Nyquist, I don't know who that is, and
He's a
Greg
sick.
Greg Nelson, who's a wakeboarder,
Oh yeah.
and Glenn
He lived in
and Glenn
Kentucky for a
Flake.
while. That's a legendary crew there.
Let's talk about the fact that you came up with the name for this podcast for us.
Let's talk about the fact that Glenn Flake had that sick mohawk and probably still does for
He
so
still
long.
does. No, he straight up still does.
I mean, you were throwing around that legend term. That dude's like, that's heavy.
Very legendary.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably like on some skin track in the middle of Nevada as we speak right now, just killing it.
Yeah.
Do we ever wonder though, like how much is a hairdo your identity, and the fact that he's held on to it for so long? What if he wasn't a hairdo? Would we know who he is? I mean, I
don't
would.
think you recognize
But
him.
who
I
cares? Because he has the hairdo.
True.
True.
I mean,
He has to have the hairdo.
it's like when Kiss took off the makeup. Were they still Kiss? No.
No,
Like,
they
Kiss
weren't.
didn't suck. I mean, they sucked either way, but they sucked real bad when they took the makeup off. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he still exists as a persona with makeup off, and he still had his sex list.
I'm so lost on the sex list.
Yeah, I remember watching that show when I was a youngster because I love Shannon Tweed. She appeared in more movies than his wife at the time. She appeared in more movies than Tom Hanks, and she showed her boobies in all of them. So obviously I was a big fan. So I watched the show, and he had slept with over 4,000 women in his life that he was keeping
Like
tally. Yeah, what's his name?
Gene Simmons?
Gene Simmons.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Plague.
I thought we were talking about plate this whole time.
I know. I mean, Plague's probably up there too. I mean, come on.
Okay, let's get to it. Enough fucking shenanigans.
I mean, you can edit that out, right?
We can do whatever we want.
We can edit anything out, dude. I could make it look like we're interviewing fucking, I don't know,
Glenn Plague.
Glenn Plake right now.
Well,
And
it's
he's
good to include Glenn. Why not? You know, it doesn't always have to be snowboarding this and snowboard that. We're above, and our guest is above and beyond snowboarding today, so we can talk about climbing.
How about all this like inclusiveness for snowboarding? Like, you know how it seems like a lot of people are like, everyone should be introduced to snowboarding. Like, how do you feel about that, Kevin? Like, do you want more people to start snowboarding, or do you wish that everyone would like stay the fuck out of the backcountry?
Well, I mean, personally, I would rather everybody stay out of the backcountry. I mean, but reality is that that's not going to happen.
They're already there.
The thing about snowboarding was, it was never. I mean, did you ever like? Some dude walked up and he was a different color skin than you, and you were like totally vibed him, like, I don't live flying, bro. I mean, we never vibed anybody. That's what snowboarding was. It was inclusive. It didn't matter if you were fat or if you like did crank or if you like couldn't see, or it was just like if you were a bummer on the whole scene, if you were a complainer, or if you were totally reckless and we had to drag you out of like. Then you got vibed and you weren't in the scene. But pretty much the only prerequisite to be a snowboarder ever, at least in the scene that I was in and the scenes that my bros were in, where you just had to be kind of cool and like be stoked on snowboarding. So I don't like this whole like inclusiveness thing, unless something's changed in this generation that I've never seen. There was no not including everybody. If you wanted to come snowboard, you were coming snowboard.
It was like that up in Canada too. If anything, you just reminded me, we needed more friends. We would have taken anybody.
Yeah.
If there were transsexuals back then, I would have had a whole posse of transsexuals.
You probably would have been racist then because you only would have snowboarded with transsexuals.
Yeah, I would have been like, if you're not trans, LGQ. Yeah, but
Like,
we wanted to have more friends. I wanted more people to wave at. I mean, you could know your friends based on the pants that people wore in your small little resort town. So I would agree with you, Kevin, in the sense maybe these people who are trying to find an issue with snowboarding are
yeah.
from big metropolis cities where they're experiencing a totally different world than the real snowboard community experience, or at
I
least
don't
that
think
the
that
past
maybe
one
about
did.
I think that there's no maybe about it. I think that they're just trying to find something and anything so they could make a Instagram post over something that, in my opinion, doesn't even exist. It's like the only prerequisite is to be cool to go snowboarding.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I
cool,
mean,
not sense of the word. I mean, cool, like just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
It's
and
basically
cool, like actually want to be a snowboarder, not just want to stand around and
yeah. I mean, yeah, and don't be lazy.
wear snowboarding.
Let's just say Jackson Hole, for example, and you're like, well, I want to go to the $1 Million Cowboy Bar. I'm going to go to this spa, and I'm going to ride the hot air balloon. I'm going to ride the tram. I'm going to go fly fishing, and I'm going to go snowboarding. Like you have a checklist.
Mm.
It's not like you're sleeping in homie's garage and it's minus 20 out, and you know, like your whole life is, I think, is what you're saying. Your whole life is centers around snowboarding. You think about snowboarding. In the summer, you're working your balls off so you can afford a pass for the next year. It's in that sense, yeah. There's a huge difference in snowboarding culture and just snowboarding.
These days, there aren't a lot of well-rounded riders that could be considered, good at everything. You used to be connected to the competition world. Used to slay in almost every aspect of freestyle, including rails and slope style. And I even saw you playing around in a half pipe once in a while. You go and you take that same amount of dedication to the backcountry, which we used to be able to watch you do everything. And it wasn't just to fill your video part with diversity. It was because that's what you were into. So maybe speak to that a little bit.
Basically, like you first, and the first time you asked a question, it was about the contest scene, and the contest scene was a way to make money so you could go on these trips that you wanted to do. Because I don't know if I'm sure you guys remember this, but contests were not cool for the longest time. Like, I remember blatantly that Jamie Lynn wasn't competing in like this contest or that contest, or Terrier was boycotting Olympics. And I mean, we had this like contest thing where we didn't want to be part of that jock one up. I'm better than you culture. That wasn't what our sport was. Our sport was about out there having fun. That was it, and progressing it at a pretty mind-blowing pace. But that was what it was about: was progressing the sport, not competing with our peers. We all knew who was better or best, or even if you can say that. It was all like the community was so small. We knew that we didn't need to go compete for it. But that little thing they dangled over you was this money, and then all of a sudden, if you say you win a contest, you got $5,000 in your pocket. You can live off that for the winter. So that was the motivation to do the contest. And then when the prize money got huge, then next thing you know, you can win a contest and go to Alaska for a month. So that was always about making more money to go on cooler trips.
And I understand that, but the way you sometimes rode in rail contests, for instance, where just about every other rider would just give up on these weird, demented rails that they were building for a few years there. I remember one specifically was the Sims event in Whistler. And it was like this twisty, twirly, sidesy, widesy kicker rail that had everything. And everyone just gave up and you just kept riding. You already won, Kevin. And you just kept riding it. So that would completely contradict what you're saying. Is it just being about money? However, you did mention it was also about fun. So why did you just keep going when that thing could have taken your knee out?
Well, probably because it was fun, or I mean, yeah. Well, what else are you gonna do? I mean, the bar's gonna be there when you get done. It's snowboarding. It was whatever was in front of you. It wasn't. I grew up watching, like Selaznick in the park, Selaznick on a pad at Squaw Valley, and watching all these, and then watching Tom Burt go down the fingers. And my mentors were a lot of the Hatchet brothers for the guys that mentored me in the backcountry and taught me how to not kill myself. But then I would go to Boreal and I have like, you know, this other whole group that just did jibs and it's not powder every day. So what are you going to do? Just sit around and bitch that there's no powder? Are you just going to go ride a rail? Or are you going to go, I don't know, make a jump, ride a tree? It was just
yes, they would bitch that there's no powder.
I didn't care to bitch. It was just like, well, let's just go snowboarding anyway. Like back then I just didn't care. I just wanted to go snowboarding every day that I could.
Let's go back just a tiny bit, because something I'm interested in is like, it seems like you kind of came out of nowhere. Was there like this long buildup, like everybody else, where it's like the fucking shop sponsor, the rep sponsor? It just seems like you were fucking ripping right out the gate, and like it happened quick. Like from when you started snowboarding till the time you were like getting paid and traveling, how long of a period was that?
It was like a year and a half.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Years. I just grew up skateboarding. I took that same mentality from skateboarding. It was just like, until you can't like move anymore, I just skateboarded my whole youth pretty much obsessively. And then I got into this band, and then we were starting to play clubs like in Sacramento when I was like underage and going to bars. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And then still kind of snowboarding, but not really committing to it, not thinking that there was any chance that some idiot like me would be sponsored. And back then we didn't even really know what's being sponsored. I mean, you got a free board, cool. But it wasn't even about that. It was like, whatever, like this band is really cool and we're making money. And then our drummer OD'd and died. So I kind of like had this come to Jesus moment where I was like, okay, I have this healthy lifestyle that I can pursue, and I don't have to depend on any bandmates, or I can go down this road that I was kind of seeing, like the drugs and the booze and the like crazy nights out. And I was just like, moved to Truckee. At the time, I traded my bass for a snowboard and just dedicated myself 100% to snowboarding, not knowing that there was going to be any sort of financial outcome. It was just more or less like, I really need to see where this goes and how far I can take it, because in the beginning I thought snowboarding was pretty stupid. Like they all had these like neon green suits on and like mambo socks and like trying to skateboard on the snow. I was like, this is totally gay. Like, what is this? What are you guys trying to do? And then I was watching that movie Riders on the Storm. I'm sure you guys remember that one. And I saw Cardiel and Selaznick in it. And I was like, wait a minute. If those dudes are doing it, it's got to be super cool. Because those guys were like my heroes, like going to the Grind skate park in Sacramento. And Cardiel, Selaz would come in. And you could hear them when they came in, dude. And like Jeff Tolan. And you would hear it just be like the coping would just begin to smash. You'd be like, oh, the boys, it gives me chills. Like the boys are there. And then you look around the corner into the street course, like I'd be skating the mini ramp, and you just see like lightning speed and just like breaking boards, just tail smacks, and like just the audio alone, I knew that they were there. And so I saw those dudes snowboarding, and I'm like, well, I got to go try this like for real. So I went up and like tweaked my stance and made it look exactly like their boards, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So once that Cardiel and Selaz deemed it cool in my head, I'm like, if those dudes do it, then that's a hall pass to go try this super lame sport. So that's how that whole deal started.
Was there ever like a time when you were like, done with competition, I'm going hardcore backcountry, I'm just gonna film
That
clips?
was like, it was a battle like every year, because it came to the point where it was in my contracts that I would have to do contests. And I would get like heat from like the Hatchet brothers being like, dude, you gotta like stick around and we'll film like a really good part. And you gotta, and then you'd have to have time to train for these, whatever you want to call it, for these contests that are usually like in January. And you only get a couple weeks to ride. And then how many film days you get a year? How many Bluebirds, Stable, powder days do you get in the backcountry every year? Like, and if lucky. So there was a constant battle of making people happy with these stupid contests and trying to get enough days in the backcountry to film a part, because it definitely wasn't like it is today, where you had like, you could film something with your phone, or it just was a whole different deal back then. 16mm cameras, and
you were limited. You were limited to crews that knew what they were doing with 16mm, for sure.
Well, you had to be ripping too for anyone to burn fucking 16mm on you.
$20 a shot.
Yeah.
Every fall was $20. It's just like, whoa. When Hatchet told me that, I was like, okay, pressure's on, don't fall.
Weren't you like pretty hungover winning all those X Games? Weren't you telling me that like you kind of buckled at an X Games once because you weren't hungover, and then your team manager was like, you're never competing not hungover again?
No, it was Astafin. He would always go out there with me, and he was pretty on it, pretty ahead of his time in the whole like that side of it. What's that dude, like Tyson's dude, King or whatever his name is?
Yeah, Don
King with the hair. Don King. He was kind of the Don. He was ahead of his time on Mark. Like, he saw the vision of all that when we were all just Polaroids on like, I want to learn a new trick and go right, pal. He kind of saw the dollar signs on that side of it. So
explain who that is to the listeners, because I don't think they know that. And let me just quickly add, you must be one of the first agented riders in snowboarding. Is that correct?
I don't know that for a fact, but I know that we pretty much started the first agency with the family, with Steve Aspen. And the first dudes were like UC, myself, and I think Todd Richards was on there. But it was just started basically because my mail, I would get home and I'd have like a stack of mail, my bills, and I'm like, I can't do both. I'm tired of paying late fees basically. And we started talking. He's like, well, I'll do that for you. And I'm like, okay, can you deposit my checks too? He's like, how about I try to make you some money too while I'm at it? So, and he was in between jobs. So, or actually, I think he was at the time the team manager at Lamar, and then he kind of was doing the thing for me on the side. And then he saw the vision of materializing it into this huge thing.
And is that kind of when these big deals started to get thrown on the table? Is like after that, like after you kind of teamed up with him?
Yeah, I think it was just a perfect storm. I think the sport was there, and I think he was there, and you're never going to be as good as somebody going and fighting for you in a room. I mean, what do? You go, dude, I'm so sick. I'm worth like twice that money you just offered me. Like, check me out. Haven't you seen me? I mean, you're never going to be able to promote yourself like that. Like, somebody else can go in there and be like, nope. Because they're going to go 30 grand. I'm going to be like, that sounds great. Okay, get me out of here. I'm going to the bar.
So what was the first like huge deal that you signed?
I think the biggest one I ever signed was my first Lamar contract, because it was, I don't remember exactly. I think it was like $1,500 a month, and I was just like, booyah! No rent, no, like my car payment was paid for, my rent was paid for, and I could snowboard every day.
What year was that?
Probably 95-ish.
So that was when Lamar was fucking tight. Like
Lamar was
Rankwit,
Cardell, Rankwit,
Gilligan, Yoder.
Is Cardiel on there?
Cardiel.
Cardiel. Yeah, imagine that dream come true.
So what, were you like the youngest kid on that team at the time?
What's that?
Were you the youngest kid on the team at that time?
Probably.
The youngest kid on the team at that time?
I think so. Yeah, I was probably 20. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, being on I went from like idolizing Cardiel to being a larger than life like a god base. I mean, there was nobody big. Like, I didn't follow sports. It wasn't like Jordan and I don't even know some other like Steve Young or something. Joe
You
Montana.
can't even name any of these guys.
That was snowboarding though back then, right? It found kids who didn't want to play group sports like that. It found the loners.
It totally did. It found the odd guys out, maybe the introverts and and it happened to happen in these places that are super freaking awesome. I mean, you go up in the mountains and just trip out and get rad.
So you were like, were you doing trips with like Cardiel and Rankwit and all these guys back then?
Rankwit kind of already had his crew kind of set up. Like I was the new kid. You didn't just get to go with those guys. It was different back then. It wasn't the Burton team where, you're taking the kid on the trip with you. They already had their own scene. I had to fight for what I got. They were probably pissed, it was still old school rules back then. They didn't like take me to their jumps and be like, hey dude.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, whatever, like new kid, see how long you last. Good luck.
And then how long were you on Lamar?
Till probably 2000, I think. So somewhere around there, probably 6 or 7 years.
And then is that when the whole Genius thing happened?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, and then the Genius thing happened. The Lamar thing got weird because they sold it. And that dude, Jamie, bought it. And to quote him, he called me a spoiled fucking brat. Well, they bought the story on that is they bought the company and the company was sold without the athletes being an asset.
Yeah.
And we really, had that in there because if you buy it with the companies as an asset, I mean it's like that's going to change the price of the whole company, right?
Yeah.
If you get on the marketing team it's sold separately.
Yeah.
But he got me up there, flew me up to Vancouver. And so, I walk in, all thinking I'm bad, and I'm like, hey, screw you, man. I'm not riding for you. You're a jerk, And he just looks at me and says what I just said. And he said, I'll tie you up in court for the next 8 years. He goes, you don't have any, what are you going to do? Just show up to court every day? He's like, and then I'll appeal. He said, I'll lock you up for as long, and you won't be making any money. Here, I'll double your salary, stay with me for 2 years, and I'll let you go. And I told him to F off and walked out the door and went and talked to my people, and they said, yeah, he can tie you up for a long time. It's like, if you want to fight it, fight it. If not, it's probably easier just to take the 2 years and just.
So you had to ride for him for 2 years after you fucking hated this guy?
Yeah, and he made skateboards with my name on it. He made like boots with my name on it. He just like totally hoarded the whole deal out. It was embarrassing.
Wasn't he kind of the first guy that like decided that like pro snowboarders were obsolete? Like he didn't need a team or anything. He could just sell these because he came from Ride, right?
Yeah.
And, isn't that why Ride went under? Is because he was like gray marketing boards and shit. Like he did some fucked up shit.
And he got barred from snowboarding for a couple of years, and then he did the same thing in windsurfing. He got barred from windsurf. Like, how do you get barred? Like, your business ethic is so lame that you get barred from the industry for 2 years by law.
Yeah.
And then this is the dude I'm going into a conference with. I'm like 25 years old snowboarder dude, just thinking I'm awesome against this dude.
He's just a parasite then. He comes in, he has no soul, and he just strips it. He's basically buy, chop up, and sell. Who gives a shit who it hurts in the process? And
Exactly.
that's like the American way these days, though. So fucking, I think everybody's looking to do that. All these little, I want to show off, I want to flex. How can I do that? And it's the wrong attitude, and I think that's why we always are comparing today to the yesteryears.
Yeah.
Give us a story about fucking with the industry, Kevin, because those are always my favorite. There's got to be one in the top of your head where you just say, nope, I'll do it my way.
There was kind of an urban legend that I threw a helmet at this dude. Oh, there's two of them. I threw a beer can one time, and I threw my helmet. X Games, the night before this contest, right? We had this rider meeting, and they said, "Well, you gotta wear a helmet." They go, it's mandatory. Everybody has to wear helmets tomorrow. And I'm like, we don't. And my thing was, it wasn't that I wasn't into safety. It was like, you can't, if you're not used to riding a helmet, you're going to go ride some icy, flat, piece of crap kicker, and you're going to wait till the sun goes down and shades up everything, ices it over, and it's going to be like half snowing. And then you're going to make us wear a helmet. It's like the only way that you can hear your speed is, like, if you put a helmet on, it changes your whole, judging your speed is from a lot of it's sound, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, you can't just pull that on us the night before. They're like, well, it's mandatory, don't compete. And I just got all, same deal. Just, we don't need you. We'll get another rider in here. And so I threw a helmet. So that was kind of a story that turned into kind of,
you bad boy.
It's whatever. And then I was at Bachelor one time, and the judge, one of them who will remain nameless because whatever, it doesn't matter. He decided that I landed my trick, and it was just to get into the finals, and they like X'd me out by like 1 point, right? And it was one of those things that wasn't even, it was not even close, Nobody, like half the people landed. I think Otterstrom like did something super sick, but that was like the only thing that was even landed. And I had just flown up there from like Tahoe, and it was like just for the day for the contest and blah blah blah. Long story long, they didn't even let me in the finals, and I opened a Coors Light and threw it at him, and it almost hit the dude in the head. So I got.
Well, that sounds fair.
I could not handle there was so much bullshit back then. There was so much little, like, you had these pros that didn't make it, and they had this like chip on their shoulder, and they hated everybody that was kind of doing well. And then you had all these industry maggots, parasites, like Willie said, that just, they would come in and act like they're your bros, and then behind closed doors, they're like doing these deals and screwing you out of like $500 here and you're just like, you know what? Screw all these people. Like, you guys are like the opposite of what this whole thing's all about. And I did like that wore on me like miserably. Like, it ruined a lot of that, ruined what snowboarding was for me. Like the whole business side and the shit talking and all that. It's like, it's snowboarding, people. Like, get over it. It's not the Wall Street. You want to go work and make money. You want to like make millions. Go work somewhere else. Get out of our scene. Like, you don't belong here. You didn't then, and you don't belong here now.
When talentless people see money is what it is. They come in, and there's this industry that started itself essentially, and grew from the creativity completely naturally, and then cha-ching, you see the money signs, and in they come, just a bunch of dipshits, right? And I can see why you get jaded at that.
And especially like the golden goose, like someone who's crushing shit, like those people are the biggest like targets. You know what I mean? Like, if you're fucking dominating contests, and I don't know, they just see you as like a fucking cash cow for them. And it's like,
unless you won't do what they say, and then you're going to get jaded because they're going to work against you, which it sounds like it happens. Because, I mean, did you have a good relationship with all of your sponsors, Kevin?
For the most part, yeah. The sponsors that were cool, like the in industry, besides Lamar, the Genius thing got a little weird, just cause. But for the most part, the in industry people were pretty cool. The bindings, the boots, the goggles, they were pretty cool, pretty reasonable. Any of that out industry stuff was just kind of retarded, and that's why I didn't have the stomach to deal with it. And then towards the end, it got towards the end of the big money years, even the in industry stuff just was getting so sideways, and people were so geeked on dollars, man. They were so geeked on making their little dollar signs. And then, they'd say, oh, we don't have a budget for you to go to, wherever, to go to France and ride the Dolomites or some trip that would be rad. But then the next week, they have you fly down to Southern California. You're sitting around a sushi dinner, a $5,000 freaking dinner. And you're just like, so you don't have any money to do anything cool. But you have money to like just to throw. It just the whole thing baffled me. It wasn't about.
So I'm interested then. You knowing this, and you knew this, you still got into Genius. You thought it was going to be different, right? Can you just give us a quick walkthrough in a nutshell of the whole Genius startup and what ended up happening? Because it looked like it was going to be just so cool. I remember when it was just hatching.
It was cool for 3 years, and it was Peter Line called me up and he said, "Hey, I want to start a company. Let's do it." And at the time, I was starting Capita with Blue, Jason Brown, and Jeffy Anderson. And at that same time, Sims was peppering me pretty hard with a huge contract, like over $1 million. And I was like, man, I really want to do something really cool. And the Capita thing, you think Capita now, and you would have no idea, but I was like, I don't know, dude, it sounds a little sketchy, but the infrastructure was already in place with Genius. There was going to be no startup, and the business, you know, they already had the manufacturer, they already had the marketing, they already, like, everything was there. It was just like you put one little pile of chips over in Genius and it was going to be good, right? Whereas Capita was a lot more work.
It was like more of a concept kind of.
And the Sims thing, Sims wasn't, they were kind of rebuilding, and the money was great. You know, in hindsight, probably should have just taken the money, but it wasn't like, my heart wasn't into it. So Genius was something, and it was with Peter Line, a guy I really looked up to, and then then the contract was signed, and then we did all that stuff, and then Peter dropped out because they didn't want him to leave Forum. It was probably a ploy to get me over to Genius. I'm believing, but whatever. It was still cool. And at the time I was dating Tara, so of course then they wanted me to get Tara involved. So I think there was some mental manipulation going on there, but it's neither here nor there. That part of it worked out well, and then it went good for 3 years, and we were making money. Was the weird part, because hard goods don't make money in that short amount of time, as everybody knows. And then the deal got all shady. They sold Forum to Burton, and a year later they just dropped Genius, basically. So I basically had no say in the sale, any of that, because I wasn't a majority shareholder. And I got a check, which was cool to get a check. For
what was your stake? What was your stake of Genius? I always wonder that.
It was just done. It was just, all of a sudden it was just over. Like, you put all these ideas into it, and you think that this is something like that's going to last for 10, 15, for, you know, forever. And it had the capacity to do that. And that was the most disheartening part about it, was it just Burton bought it and it just went nowhere.
They didn't have a meeting. They didn't say, hey, can we make something out of this? What do you think?
No, there was no offer like, hey, you want to buy it? There was nothing. It was just, here's a check.
What was your stake in it?
It was somewhere between 20% and 50, somewhere between 20 and 51.
So you think you'd be a part of that conversation? That seems just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was shady. I'm sure somebody at Forum made a lot of money.
Another one of those.
Yeah.
And so do you regret leaving Capita? Like, in hindsight, were you like, you know, or was that just a grind you were glad to get away from?
No, I mean, the romance of it, yeah, and to see where they are now, yeah. I mean, of course, you have a little bit of it's not remorse, it's none of that, and I'm super stoked on where those guys are at. But at the time, that was just a better decision for me. You know, it just, I mean, it was like heart-wrenching to bail on those guys, but it just, at the time, it was a better deal for me.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you had more of a say. You had more of a say in Genius, though. You know, right? Like Genius was kind of your company in a way. I mean, that's how I saw it.
Me too.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Like, Peter had a lot to do with that. Like, a lot of the concepts and a lot of the direction was him, and then they kind of bounced it off me. But it was it was marketed a lot around me. Yeah. And to be honest, I didn't have a whole lot of time to be spending doing a whole lot of that. So it worked out very well. and that's where the capita thing wasn't gonna. I was like, I don't have time to be looking at every little thing, you know, and to figure out what manufacturer we're going to be at, and I really didn't want to take on, I don't think at that time, that burden of all that, because I was still just 100% into snowboarding. And
Yeah, you
Genius,
couldn't do both.
the liberty of just being a snowboarder, and I wasn't ready to be a businessman yet.
I loved the Genius marketing though. I was like, this is so refreshing. I'm so glad this company is finally starting for the riders, by the riders, and then boom, it just disappeared one day.
I know. Well, I'm guessing that there was somebody felt threatened, or I don't know. I mean, Burton bought it and then it disappeared. So
Just didn't need to cry.
I don't know what the deal was with it, but I wish I could hear some conversations behind closed doors. I'll tell you that.
I remember you guys had some ad or some like event thing that was like Meet the Pros, but it was like MEAT, and then you guys like grilled hot dogs for them or something. It's like weird little things like that were fucking dope.
My favorite Genius. Sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I was going to say my favorite Genius ad was the one where they just straight up called out, like, always start with marketing before you have product. And it just basically called out the whole industry. It was like marketing first, put all your money into that before you've even have your first snowboard printed. And then you get your technology. I just love that. It was just like, nah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was basically the subtle art of making fun of yourself, but it was brilliant marketing at the same time. So
yeah, it didn't take itself too seriously, and to have Peter Line involved too. And when he disappeared too, it was just strange. I think everybody, even me up in Canada, who didn't have my ear to the ground, we just saw something weird unfolding when Peter left and Forum got sold right after. I mean, they just released one of the biggest movies ever. And yeah, it was weird. Money.
There wasn't much like I said, there was pretty much zero communication. It was just, okay, this thing's done. Good luck. You know, it was basically got a check in the mail and that was it.
Yeah. Well,
when before that time, everything was, you know, we're going to do this. Everything was pretty tight, you know?
Yeah.
Everything was, what's your ideas? And you get something, all your ideas, you know, your ideas are pretty sacred, you know? You're giving all this, your ideas on whether it's boards or marketing ideas and this, that, and the other, and then to have your so-called, I mean, I guess it's intellectual property, have your ideas being just somebody else making money off that. It was interesting to me. It really left a sour taste. And then to not get you have the balls to basically steal from people, but you don't have the balls to even give them a phone call and tell them what you're up to.
Yeah,
that's the
bullshit.
kind of stuff that keeps you awake at night and goes, well, who am I really getting involved with here?
Yeah,
whose fault is it? It's my fault. You know?
I let's go to videos for a second, because you've had parts your whole life, some of the best parts in most of the movies you've worked with, but there's a few different kinds of rider out there. There's riders who just shut up, head down, and they ride, and then there's guys who are all personality and can't ride worth shit. And then there's guys who have personality and can ride everything. And that is how I always classified you. Why did it take so long for you to get your own movie? The fuck?
Well, I worked really well with the crew that I was with, you know, and they would work around my little scheduling problems, you know. Like, yeah, basically, if you wanted to be with Standard Films, you had to sign in blood, you know. Like if you wanted to be one of the top guys that was getting the first slot at like going out, and they're gonna waste their 2 cameras on you every time they go out. I mean, you had to commit, you know, not just, oh, I'm gonna commit to like 4 days and you're gonna get 3 shots. What are they gonna do with 3 shots? You're gonna have one in the montage, one in the credits. I mean, you had to commit to getting 2 minutes of footage with these people, which was, I remember stressing out about it. Like this time of year, I'd just be stressed. I'd be like, man, how am I gonna, like, one, like the danger, and 2, like, is it gonna be good enough? Because that was like the cream of the crop. That was like, I mean, you're going again, like, if you wanted to film lines, you're like going out with Johan. You know, it's like, well, or Dave Hatchett, or it's like, how do you compete with that? And then you, on the freestyle side, you know, it's like, oh, you know, in the early days, it was like Peter Lyons out there with Dogger. You're just like, oh my God, like, my brain's gonna explode, you know? Like, these guys were just like literally gods to you. And then, or Slaz, and you go, I caught myself, like, first year film was standard. I'm like, I'm out with Slaznik, dude. I'm like watching how he rides his snowmobile, you know?
Yeah.
We've got a special surprise for you, Kevin. We got Wastell here.
Happy birthday to you.
What's up, Kurt?
I just got 7 stitches this morning. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, let's check it. Damn, dude.
Stitches?
Yeah. Stupid finger I already cut off once.
How'd you cut it? Did you accidentally grab Tindy?
No. I was doing something. I knocked over a kitchen glass.
Are you sure? Me and Willie were just talking yesterday that you haven't been drinking, so there's probably less holes in the wall and probably, you know, less things broken. But I guess that theory went to crap, huh?
Yeah. Hey, that was a good thing. Everything else went to crap, but the drinking part was quitting that was a good thing. I was told that I was cooler when I drank.
Oh, you are. We all are.
Oh,
I'm way cooler when I drink.
that sucks.
We're probably a lot funnier when we drink. I feel fucking boring being sober, dude.
Now I feel like
So
now that
boring.
I'm drinking, I feel like I'm like a AA teacher.
I know. I know you're all serious about it too. You're just like,
Are you sure you want that?
better when you don't drink?
All three of you guys don't drink right now, and you're I'm just wondering, what was my question? I just had something just came to mind, which is really funny. You guys all have a lot of your history is based around booze, right?
Yes.
A lot of your memories, your nostalgia, whether that be positive or negative. How are things different now that you're all clean
Boring.
and boring?
Well, a little boring. My body doesn't hurt as bad.
I got smaller pants.
Yeah.
The penis shrunk.
1 year without a beer.
Oh,
I'm proud of you, Kevin.
I'm just slightly behind you.
That's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. I'm at like 11 months.
I'm 2 months.
Oh. Yeah, you're right there, dude.
Yeah.
I can talk at any moment. You guys at least have a little time under your belt.
Let me ask you guys a question then. Could you do what you used to do, Kurt and Kevin, if you didn't drink?
It wouldn't have happened.
Really? You're giving credit to the booze?
Yeah, I mean, booze gets a bad rap, but that got me through a lot of airplane flights, a lot of just down days, everybody's like, yeah, booze sucks, but I mean, there was a lot of good that came out of booze too.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I currently run alcohol-based festivals, and I just love this stuff. But I also have seen people fall apart when they drink it, and they never left that 18-year-old, 20-year-old how they acted. They just kept growing up, and then as soon as they took a sip, it was bam, right back to 20 party time. But I mean, that's a huge part of snowboarding. At least it was.
I think so. I mean, you were constantly trying to keep life was awesome. I mean, you go out and ride and you never wanted to stop feeling good. And like nothing sucked really. And you just kept it going with the party. I mean, it was like, yeah, you drink beer, and for a long time, there was no repercussions. I mean, there was no like jail time. There was no nothing. It was just grab a 6-pack on your way home and celebrate, pass out, do it again. Wake up, go snowboarding all day, drink 6-pack, wake up, go snowboard, rinse, repeat, and just, it went on like that for years. And then at some point I started using it more as like a crutch to not deal with like these industry people or relationships gone sour because of snowboarding and because of booze, or it just became something that was way too convenient to grab and make everything go away. So
well, and that was wasn't that kind of, it was kind of expected at one point too. It was like partying was almost like half of the equation. Like,
yeah, it's called Las Vegas trade shows. Like,
yeah.
What do you do?
I mean, that's where all the deals went down, were at 3 a.m. at the casino. Like, no one was writing paper at the actual trade shows. It was like,
it was weird by the time. If you didn't drink, you were kind of a kook.
Exactly.
Like, if you weren't in the party train, like everybody was hating on Borgstead back then. Like, no, dude, the dude's at home sleeping, and he's gonna be up in the morning doing tricks you never even thought of, like the nose press. But he was kind of like ostracized from the group because he wasn't out partying with everybody.
yeah, that was the same with Kinger too.
Great snowboarder and a super nice guy. It's like, in some senses, I mean, maybe that's the racist part of snowboarding, is that back then, if you weren't in like the cool clique, you kind of got, I don't know, if you weren't like.
That's why the Mormons had to stick together.
What's that?
That's why the Mormons had to stick together, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's how the whole Salt Lake City crew came up. We need to stick together.
But then when those Mormons snap, boy, they snap pretty good, don't they?
Oh, and they all snap.
Hey, you guys want to try something? You guys want to try something real quick?
Or are we doing an exercise? Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. The Wheel of Doom.
Oh God.
Worst snowboard trip you've ever been on?
Kurt, you want to take this one? I gotta pee.
God, worst?
Worst trip.
Did you have a lot?
Well, I mean, I guess defines like what part of it. Well, I remember having to go. I think all the rest of the solid dudes went to Japan, and they got there like maybe a week after I was already there. But I had to go with the owner of Wave Rave at the time, and I had to go like shopping for like design ideas around Tokyo. And I was like 18, and I was so bent out of shape. And then I had to do these like random demos. All the while, these other guys were riding powder, and I was riding like the shittiest snow ever. But then once we finally met up, that was really fun.
Then it was on.
But I still have never ridden powder in Japan of all the times I've been there.
Really?
Oh,
Nope.
Yeah,
Never.
I can't say I have either.
I'm opposite every single time. Where were you? Were you in Hakuba, or did you go up to Hokkaido?
I can't even remember, man. It was so long ago.
Sake. The sake was good by the sounds of it.
The head hits.
Okay, let's give Kevin a different
Concussions.
one.
No, I've been told.
I don't know where this thing's supposed to be. Who's the worst team manager you've ever had?
Oh God.
You don't have to answer it if you don't want. You don't have to call people out, but it's there.
Bet your ass you do. Like those team managers that you want to go on a trip, but they're like, we can't afford it, but they'll take the team out for $5,000 in sushi.
Well, that happened all the time.
Of course. Who's the worst at that?
Okay, let's switch it then. If you don't have anyone, who's the best team manager you've ever had?
Well, I'd have to say Willie McMillon there at Bluebird Snowboards.
Got you hookers?
Wasn't the most lucrative project, but he did
No.
couch.
Those were good. Those were good days, though. I mean, hanging out with you and Kurt, dude. Those were like, I think for me, those were the highlights of snowboarding. For me, was that like 2-year stretch. That run that we got on was fucking pretty sweet.
Yeah, that was The best and worst of times.
Yeah, best and worst of times. But what about you, Kurt?
On this first team manager thing, because I'm trying to think of one. I know there's like a horrible one in there.
I'm surprised you guys don't just jump to one. I thought everyone would have that story.
AJ, look at my. I think I'm reading your brainwaves.
Just say it, guys. Just say it. If you don't like what you say, we can edit it later.
This is for entertainment purposes
Well,
only.
there's certain aspects to team managers where I think the team manager role in general, they're playing two sides of the coin. So it's like they're your bro. I think they're all kind of in the same category where they're your bro, but they're the liaison between the company. So they're trying to be super cool, but they're being cool to both sides. So it's like they all kind of suck, basically.
They always say they're on your side. They're fighting for you.
Yeah, but they're kind of not, you know. But they kind of are at the same time. So, I mean, I don't know. They've all kind of butt heads with basically all of them. Yeah, I'm sure I was a major pain in the ass.
Anytime or do some incentives and they tried to justify why you weren't getting it was what always pissed me off.
Yeah. Like your sticker wasn't, you can't read the whole, shut up.
But for me, I would say Sismus, Knox, and Seda were the best.
What about Tuck?
Well, yeah, Tuck, obviously, yeah. But he was more like like a father.
Yeah, yeah.
What were the brands that those guys were working for?
Well, the Knox and Sismus were Vans.
Vans.
And Pete Derricks too, but Pete Derricks was one step above them. But those three guys always were. I don't know. I just liked how they were with the snowboarders in general. Like they stood up for the snowboarders way more than most. As far as dedicated to like a career that doesn't last like one season, or if you get wrecked, then you're out. But
I have a good one. I had that dude Enoch Harris. I got a story about him. I walked into Arnett one day, and I was doing a deal with some other glass company. Walked in there, he gave me this huge. You remember the old size boxes where you'd go into the factory and you'd grab like the hugest box they had, and it was like you grabbed two of them and stuffed it with everything in the whole freaking factory. Walked out of there, and then the next day, like, told them basically I wasn't going to ride for Arnett. And then I show up at Billabong, like the same trips. I'd go down there and go to all my sponsors at the same time, just one trip, get it done, so I didn't have to stay down there forever. And I show up the next day, or maybe a couple days later, and the dude had quit there, and now he was my team manager at Billabong. So I walk into the meeting, and he's like sitting there staring at me. I'm like, are we good, bro? And we kind of left it like at Arnett. We kind of left it like everything was good, So I kind of felt bad about that, but I don't think he ever held that over my head. But
What's cool is Kurt's repping Capita now, and we were just talking about Capita and how you were one of the dudes there.
You almost were one of the dudes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Still.
Well, the Black Snowboarder Death was my pro model, and they just took my name off it once. They actually have a board. I got a picture from the trade show a few years ago. Blue sent me one, and the first run, and it actually had my name on it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Pretty cool. If you're getting
with
money for it, that's cool.
I don't know. It's been a while. I kind of feel like I let them down a little bit, but at the time, I don't know. It just wasn't the right move, but
I kind of feel like you should be on Capita again, dude. I feel like they need to just start paying you and Kurt, dude.
I just love
like
writing
millions with interest.
I would love to see that, man. It would be so cool. Blue? Why don't you send Kevin and Kurt a paycheck? Even though I know how gnarly it is right now for everybody.
Well, you just got to get your rent paid for. I mean, you get your rent paid for, and you can actually spend time snowboarding. You know what I don't get? Here's the thing. What I don't get is you have all these resources. Like you have guys like Kurt per se. Like you can take the dude to Salt Lake. He's gonna know where you could put him with 4 young kids who don't know what they're doing from Lake Tahoe. I mean, you have this team manager role / like mentor / still getting shots role, you know?
Yeah.
That is, if you've ever been out filming snowboarding, it's not easy. You know, you don't want to be running around on a bluebird day trying to figure out where you're going.
Yeah.
Or
learning how to build a jump or fucking any of that.
Jump or build it wrong or not know how to ride a line correctly to where it looks good on film, or there's all these, or that, you know, some angle, or I mean, there's all this knowledge and that these people have, these older snowboarders in our sport that are totally underutilized.
How to be productive, yeah.
Ride a line and get a shot. There's value in it. It's just going through a generation gap. In the future, I think that's going to be, you know, like skateboarding went through that. There's going to be, you know, they keep on there. There's value there, you know. There's dollars spent marketing these people.
Just to speak to that, the amount of times I've like gone out as an older guy who's not, you know, competitive anymore, and just watched a crew of all the up and coming young pros just stare at a jump or a rail and talk about how gnarly it is and how they don't want to be the first one for like 2 hours. And you're like, fuck, just somebody hit this fucking thing. Like, come on. And if you had somebody there like you guys who could just be like, let me go fucking hit it. Let me show you that it's physically possible. And then you guys can start filming your shit. Let me save you 2 hours. That would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, I like that idea, like the mentor, sort of, not team manager, but just kind of like,
yeah,
I don't know, just like an older dude that goes out with the crew and just like saves those kids a lot of time, you know?
Well, imagine to a skateboard crew, Mark Gonzalez goes out with him. I mean, how much does that add? I mean, how much, when I went out with Salaz and those guys, when I was getting into the scene, my elders and Dave Downing and my elders taught me basically everything.
Yeah.
So, and I was lucky enough to be able to go out with it. I wasn't just thrown out to the wind to figure everything out by myself. Kids can rip harder, but they need to know where to go and how to do it safely.
Well, you can almost see it in kids' style these days. Like, you can look at kids and see who they looked up to and who they had as mentors. And then you can see kids who don't have that at all. Like, you got kids like Pat Moore and Jake Blauvelt, or I don't know, just these kids that like kind of got brought up by these older guys. And then you got kids that are like sliding under handrails at the park and doing like front flips off of the handrail and like wrapping their arms around their legs when they front flip. You know what I mean? They're like, you can tell those kids are just lost. They're just fucking lost. They're doing rollerblade tricks.
Stop it. Yeah.
It's like they ran out of ideas and now they're just doing it looks like rollerblading to me. Like, they're just like, let me sneak in 7,000 things onto this rail and then I'm in a front flip leg tuck off of it. And that shit gets posted. That's like legit.
Yeah. It's staying relevant. It doesn't matter what you post anymore. It's just stay relevant, so you post something every day.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's good or not.
But what they should do is, because that 90% of the shit drives me insane, so the app should adjust to you. And
yeah. Filter all that shit out for you.
Your feed would be pretty small, but it'd be.
Yeah, you can put in all the things you don't want. Like, if you can get 10 tricks in one breath of air, you just don't put it on my feed.
Yeah,
that's what Instagram needs.
And then send a message that they've been blocked.
Yeah,
you've been blocked from Andrew Hardingham's feed due to excessive one-footers.
It's fucking awful, some of this
and
shit.
And at the end of the day, if they're having fun, great. But why is it being shared with the world, I guess?
Well,
because it's awesome in their group of friends, and they all are just struggling to do. Who knows? I don't know what they have to do to become a pro snowboarder these days.
Well, and then that's the thing. Then you're contradicting yourself. If we're making fun of it in a way that's within our community, it's okay. That's how that's how rock climbing kind of, they keep themselves in this little, you make your own rules so it doesn't get just weird out of control. That means snowboarding should be like that. It's like that. Every chance I get, I say, hey, dude, it's not a frontside indie.
So true.
But in the same breath, you say, hey, dude, that was a sick frontside 720 indie. But hey, man, why are rollerbladers saying that that's a 5.0, dude? That's hella whack. They're like, well, wait a minute. Well, we're butchering skateboarding names too. So, it's like, keep it tight, don't be hypocritical. If these kids want to do that, that's fine, and it's super fun, but don't make it, keep
Don't
it tight.
film it. Don't film it. Don't make me look at that shit.
And a lot of that's just a generation gap too. We didn't have 15 cameras every time we went out. You had one.
Yeah.
Some dude was carrying the camera. He's not going to waste it on your, we'd still be dorking off doing all this dumb stuff, but you didn't have cameras documenting it and posting it out for everybody to see.
Don't you think, like, with half pipe riding, they need to kick it back 180? Like, the way that they call tricks? Like, you're hitting it at such a fucking angle that you're losing. So, you know what I mean? They call it a frontside 7, but it's a 5.
Yeah. And it's barely a 5.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you really cut that up into a pie, like, you're just adding on 180 to everything.
Or it's almost a 360.
Like vert skating, you're not really hitting it at that much of an angle. It's more like up and down. I mean, there is alley-oops and there's like...
Yeah, we're talking about degrees here?
Yeah, I'm talking about like in half-pipe snowboarding, it's like a frontside 3 is a frontside 5. I'm like, you took off forward and you landed forward, that's a 3. Don't call it a 5. And then everything has an extra 180.
They should add them all up, and then at the end, you would have what it equals, right? So if you go up at this angle and you do a 180, but it's actually a little bit more than a 180, it's like a 215. So then at the end of the pipe, they would add it all up, as opposed to saying...
Yeah, and they're like, his whole run was a whatever that number.
It's so fucking technical. Why not? Why not do it?
With tons of frontside indies.
Yeah. Or boot grabs or just, I don't know. But dude, that shit's gnarly, man. Like, how'd you like to be a fucking competitive half pipe rider right now?
Oh,
Yes.
That shit gives me anxiety just watching that shit, dude.
It's so heavy.
It's so heavy, man.
It's so heavy.
Kurt and Kevin attached to the industry. You guys still got a finger or toe dipped in there?
In the industry?
Yeah.
I got a pinky toe.
I got my hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
What are you doing right now, Kurt?
Yeah, where are you at, Kurt? What are you doing?
Tell the listeners.
Freaking nightmare. I'm right now. I'm just up at my parents' house.
Not this very moment. I mean, like in snowboarding. Are you? Are you still connected?
Well, I mean, with Willie and like Blue and Vans gives me stuff. I mean, that's about it. I mean, that's like a bonus. It keeps me into it, because otherwise, there's no way I would be able to pull it off.
Well, and you're like breeding a fucking super shredder right now. How's that like taking van snowboarding?
I just had to go for it and get passes this year at Bear.
Yeah, he's already looking good on a snowboard, man.
Yeah, but the raddest thing is somehow the marketing director at Bear, I guess, saw that I was there and he like messaged me. I was like, no way, that's cool. So
that's rad.
Like you kind of forget about that stuff, and then that makes you feel pretty good, I guess, when you hear those kinds of things,
Yeah. In Canada, they don't know that snowboarders even exist. You have to go every year for 20 years and bring all of your magazines from the previous year in just to prove to them that you can have a day ticket.
What about you, Andrew?
Actual magazines in.
Are you, what about you, Andrew? Are you involved? You get free shit? What are you doing?
No, I mean, I was a personality rider anyway. I don't think anyone ever thought I was that great of a snowboarder. So I still get like, well, I knew I was okay.
You're
But I
one of the
still get
gnarliest fucking
sunglasses
snowboarders I know, dude. What are you talking about?
Stuntman.
Yeah, but gnarly.
The
Shit's gnarly.
gnarliest
Thank you.
snowboarder on the least amount of snow ever in
Yeah.
the history of all snowboarding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
And he was taking his own photo with a remote.
That's awesome.
That's fucking
And
bad.
there was no apron of snow. The apron was like a street.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. I'm so glad someone saw it.
No,
I didn't think it saw the light of day half the time.
No, it did. We were paying attention.
And when you're from Banff, and sorry this interview isn't about me, but when you're from Banff, and maybe you guys can speak to this too, if you're not from the Hollywood area, you're on your own pretty much. Maybe there's someone listening out there, but I remember I was on the side of a highway. That was my safety, is I could crawl to a highway if something happened. And I had a camera set up, stills, and I had a video camera set up. And I walked to the top and would just just try to hit radio slaves. And I hooked up wireless mics, so I knew the camera was going, and it was great.
Yeah, it was like you and Mike Bassett. You guys were the original.
Well, he was, not me. He was years in front. I learned.
That's pretty sick, though. Like theoretically, you get paid as a rider, and then you sell your photo to the mag. Like that's fucking genius if you can pull that off.
I think I made more money off selling photos than being the snowboarder in the photo. So that was nice. What is happening there, Kevin?
I need to chop.
I think it puts its lotion on its skin.
I remember you sent me the straight out of lotion, straight out of Compton logo with Buffalo Bill there one time a few years ago. Oh man, yeah. I must have masturbated to that photo like 100 times.
You think nobody remembers Hardingham?
I'm honored. What are you still doing in the industry, Kevin? Like, do you have are you stirring a spoon or anything?
Well, there's some product that comes in the mail, and you do realize quite quickly how expensive snowboarding is when stuff stops coming in the mail and the checks stop coming. I mean, it is a very expensive sport. Absolutely.
Did you stockpile?
No, not even.
When you saw the finish line, did you put 4 boards away and 18 pairs of goggles?
I sold everything. The dream just kept going. Like, as long as I had some product, I could ride for like another month or something, But yeah, it's like the stupidest question I think that I ever get asked. People are like, "Hey, dude, you still snowboard?" Like, yeah, like as much as I can when I'm not pouring concrete and raising kids, and it's like, yeah, I want to be snowboarding every day. That question baffles me, and pretty much daily when I'm in that environment, with snowboarding people.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I snowboard as much as I can, just like everybody else. So that, like, do you just not, because you're not in videos anymore, you just, okay, I'm done. I mean, it's not football. You don't just like stop going to I'm not going to Super Bowl. I'm never picking up a football again.
I don't know. There's people like that though, dude. That people.
I know. That ain't me.
Yeah,
it just meant they never loved it,
Yeah, that's always baffled me, is people who just like never snowboard again.
I was snowboarding yesterday. There's only 2.5 feet of snow. So,
yeah.
You just pick your battles, I guess. You're solar powered a little bit more these days.
You gotta choose things you want to cold turkey.
Yeah.
Well, you always have
snowboarding's not one of them.
You have that, it never shuts off for me. It's like you have that thing like, oh, I could come back. I'm feeling pretty good this year. My knees are feeling good. My back. You have that thing where you're like, I could go do that.
Yeah.
So that still hasn't gone away. It's just a matter of figuring out the logistics and how you could pull it off.
And so what are you? Oh, sorry. You're living like you said you're living just right outside of Boreal right now.
Yeah, about 30 miles from Boreal.
And you got like you got a good crew. You've been shredding with Roan and what's that other guy's name?
Road has been ghosting me a little bit so far this year. The season's only been in action for like a week, so he's got time to. So.
Weren't you telling me you were like building fences with Roan?
Yeah, he's been giving me some work since my other job kind of got shut down with the whole COVID thing.
Does anybody like, have you ever showed up to a house and somebody's like, holy fuck, it's Kevinjones and Roan Rogers?
Yeah, well, this last project was with this guy Shane who runs the Arbor House in Truckee, and his daughter came out. He goes, "My parents can't believe that you're making the fence. That you and Ron are making the fence in our backyard."
That's so rad.
Cute. Yeah,
That's like,
it was cute.
That's like Kurt rolling up to your house and installing a sprinkler system and tearing your whole yard apart and then turning it into a piece of art by the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're good at one thing, you're probably going to be good at doing other things in life, you know?
It's crazy how fast it seems like you get those projects done. Like,
kills me.
You post a photo of the yard just like completely ripped up, and then like 5 minutes later, the thing just looks so fucking sick.
Well, yeah, I'm on time constraints because I see my child every other weekend, so I have no choice.
I mean, fame in snowboarding was a totally different thing back when Japan actually liked us and didn't want to, or did want to be us. Now they're way ahead of the game. But Kevin, what was it like? How did you handle fame, and like, what was your interpretation of it? Because it was brand new to snowboarders right when you were in the mix. There wasn't fame in snowboarding before that.
It was annoying to me. It's cool for like a couple months or maybe like a season, because at first you're kind of like, yeah, that's kind of cool if people notice me. But then after that, it just kind of got annoying. It was just you didn't want to be in character all the time. There was people kind of expected you to be like drunk funny guy, or at least that's how you thought that they expected you.
Mm-hmm.
How they expected you wanted to, you know what I mean? Like they wanted, in my brain, I thought they wanted me to be something, and you kind of just wanted to shut it off. And like the worst, I remember when I was dating Tara in Mammoth, we would have to like put on full on hoods and face masks to go into the bonds, or we'd have to stay there all night. And then the catch-22 is if you didn't sit and talk to people, then you're an asshole. And then, I don't know, just kind of a trip, you know? Like, I didn't really like the fame. I feel sorry for people that are super famous, and I mean, not sorry for them, like, oh, like, I stay awake and I think about it, but it's not like, it's not as cool as what people, like, everybody wants to be famous. Like, screw that.
Until they're famous.
Yeah.
And once you're famous, you can't be unfamous. Like, you can't unsuck a dick, you know? It's like, if you got famous for something whack, you know, like if you shit your pants on TV, or like you just fucked up super bad and you were famous because of that, and you got no money out of it, and you were just famous, like that's a fucking nightmare. It's like the worst case scenario ever.
Yeah, but there's elements of admiration in fame, especially when it's talent from an athletic point of view. You were better than a lot of other people, or you had the best video parts, so it's a compliment. But I understand you felt like you had to be turned on at all points in time. You had to be yelling and the loud guy, and that just didn't fly with you because why?
Well, I think that there's two parts of it too. There's that part of it, or there's more parts. It could be a long conversation, because there are parts that are cool, like when somebody kind of comes over with respect and says, "Hey, man, which happens more often than I expect it to. Wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That you don't even know, you've never met. He's got your boots on or something, or some old board, or maybe he doesn't, and he says, "Hey, man, you're the reason I moved to Tahoe. It changed my life. Thank you." just something so cool. You're like, whoa, I mean, that's a positive effect to have on somebody. So the positive part of it's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of retract my last statement that it's annoying. That part of it's cool and people come from respect. But you get that with that comes the people that are like, hey, dude, yeah, dude, you ever snowboard anymore, man? Or you get, some dude like, yeah, dude, how old were you? Like 60 when you did that triple backflip? It's like that constantly kind of poking or thinking you're something subhuman. It's like, no, dude, I'm just a dude who went off a jump a few times, and everybody else made it something that it really wasn't. But I was just this dude who was like snowboarding all the time.
Yeah, or they're trying to play that stupid pro game at the bar and dump a drink on your head or some shit.
Yeah, just trying to piss you off.
I remember when Tara was in Banff one night and we went up to this bar and some dude just dumped a drink on her head because that was like what he's now the coolest guy in his dipshit friendship circle, I was like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? There's
But
that
I guess
too.
it comes with the territory, I guess. I mean, I don't know. We didn't start snowboarding to become famous. We didn't start snowboarding to make money. That wasn't part of the plan back then. There was
did
no
it to
plan.
bang girls.
Totally. That worked out super well too. You're like, hey, you want to come back to my garage that's like minus 30 degrees right now? It's killer in there. Snuggle up in my plus 10 bag that hasn't been washed since December.
What's that smell? I see the
Too.
kids, they're just like snap their fingers. I got a Nike Red Bull shirt on.
I need to get a Red Bull sponsorship for like 180 grand a year. I had a snooze contract one time that Willie got me.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we squeezed some money out of them really quick, and then it was
I
over.
paid for my whole season.
That was like a 1 month deal. That was crazy. We pulled like $30,000 out of General Snooze, and then it was just over. They just were like, make us these 3 shitty videos, and we literally timed it how much time we would put into the video. So like when we were editing, we're like, we're gonna give this video 7 minutes, and once the timer went off, we're like, it's done, and we sent it to them. And they were like, oh, this is sick, and they took it, and we all got paid and went to Alaska that year, and then it was just over. It was so weird.
But
that's creative.
Like they couldn't market to children anymore, so snowboarding, the demographic was wrong.
No, they were about to pass this bill that said that like tobacco companies couldn't advertise on like any kind of sports anymore, like NASCAR or snowboards or fucking anything.
Race cars.
So General Snooze was trying to get their dick in the snowboard vagina before it closed, and somehow we got linked up with them, and I was like, yeah, I can probably get Kevin and Dow.
Because you're skids.
I can't remember who else. I thought we had 3 people. Easiest snowboard money you ever made, was it this?
No, it was Reebok.
Reebok?
Yeah.
What was that all about?
It was me and Temple, and they came to us. They said, hey, here's 10 grand to not sign a contract because we think we're going to make boots next year. They gave us 10 grand. Never even got a sample boot. Never had I don't think there was ever an ad. There might have been maybe an ad or something. Never did it. Never had to go to like a trip. Never had to go to the factory. Never did anything for this 10 grand. Just showed up.
It was just a holding deal.
Yeah, holding deal.
For 1 month.
What about you, Kurt? What was the easiest snowboard money you've ever made?
Probably like the Xbox game.
Yeah, the amp or something.
And it was barely any.
Oh.
Because I wasn't the main star.
How much are we talking?
5 grand.
Did you get any
Game that was like a platinum game.
Did they put like your sponsors' logos on your character's board and stuff?
I think so.
Did you get money from your sponsors from that? No. Dude, that's insane. Because nowadays, if you're on like Tony Hawk, dude, you better have a pool at your house, dude.
Lamborghini rich.
Yeah, like
Yeah, exactly.
like those kids are getting paid so much, dude. It's fucking rad.
No, I just have a video game to show my little Grom
That's cool.
so he
You-
can get annoyed as hell when my voice disses him on a jump.
Yeah, but do you have like an Xbox that's like compatible with that game still?
I do, and it's sitting right in my room right now.
So you can just pop it in there.
Well, I don't know where my original controllers are, so I'm kind of screwed in that.
They're all sticky.
Do your guys' kids know like that you guys were like fucking rock stars 10 years ago or I mean, I still think you guys are rock stars, but like, do your kids know like, do they understand like what you do and what you used to do?
I think
I
so.
think my daughter's starting to figure it out. She's old enough now that, and she loves snowboarding, so I think she's kind of got it figured out. We're figuring it out.
How old is your daughter?
She's 13.
Oh, okay. How's that? How's having a teenage daughter?
It's heavy.
Is she just like, hug me, leave me alone, I'm cold, I'm hungry, come
No,
here.
she's pretty chill. I'm stoked for her. She's got a good head on her shoulder. She's not all weird dramaed out yet, but you know the tough parts to come. You know, the next 4 years is going to be heavy. But
Does she have boyfriends yet? Or are you like hanging out with a shotgun at the front door?
I clean my shotgun nightly.
Yeah. What's she into? Like, what's she all about?
She's snowboarding and skateboarding, and she's got the tomboy gene.
Rad. Hell yeah.
Sure. Yeah, she's at 5 years old. She did Skyliner up at Mount Bachelor from top to bottom, so she definitely has the. And I don't care if she's. I mean, I don't really care if she snowboards, but it's rad that she does. You know. It's
Yeah.
rad that she's into it.
I'm trying to beat my record
For what?
of 4 days. No, 6 days in a season, 2 seasons ago.
Oh shit. Yeah, that ain't good.
So I'm at 2 right now, so I'm doing pretty good.
That's
You're
cool.
ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I'm way ahead.
Let's go shred Big Bear or something.
Could
Yeah.
be here in like 7.5 hours.
Yeah,
Last time Willie came to Canada, he got the Rona, so there
that's
you go.
true.
So I think we're wrapping up here. Thank
Let's
you.
wrap this bitch up. Hey,
Thank you, Kevin, so much for joining us and letting us quiz you. Kurt, as well. Thanks for joining us halfway through.
Let's have you guys on again, and fucking love you guys. Love you too, Andrew. I don't want to exclude you.
I love you too.
I love all you guys. Let's close this out with
Hi, I'm Mark Carter. Hi, I'm Kevinjones. We're here to talk to you about my new all-temp barbecue sauce wax. But don't, cigarette shit out the bowl. Ribs and jibs, you. For ultimate penetration, apply generously and baste thoroughly. Once you've applied generously, let it marinate for about 15 minutes. Then put the grill to it. Mark Carter's barbecue sauce, all-temp wax. Even smells like barbecue sauce. Mark Carter's barbecue sauce, all temp wax. Smells so good you want to eat it. But no!